So UFC 298 is officially in the books, and we finally got to see the results. And welcome to a new era. Time for a new featherweight champion. Time to see a new featherweight reign. Congratulations to Ilia Topuria. It's a great fight. Obviously, we're going to start off with that fight first. It was a great card. UFC 298 was one of the best cards so far of the year. Probably one of the best cards in the last couple years. Even Dana White, in the press conference, was bragging about how great this card was. So we're going to start out with the main event. It was obviously Alexander Volkanovski going up against Ilia Topuria for the featherweight championship. Now, basically, up until this point, Alexander Volkanovski has been unbeatable at featherweight. He's basically won every fight in the UFC at that weight class. He has never lost a title defense, and he's pretty much have basically wiped out the entire division. Now we see newcomers like Topuria, who hasn't fought Volkanovski yet. Volkanovski has already beaten guys like Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez. So he's already pretty much beaten all the top featherweights. So Ilia Topuria was finally some fresh meat for him, a new face, a new opponent. So it's very exciting to see how these two were going to match up against each other. We knew Topuria had the great striking ability. We knew Volkanovski kind of had like the best all-around game. So we thought maybe he'd be able to offset that because we've seen Volkanovski do good against strikers. He did good against Max Holloway. So if he could beat Max Holloway, he should be able to beat Topuria, which is what we thought coming into this. But I guess we were mistaken. The fight started off good. It was a back and forth. Both guys were landing great shots. I thought Volkanovski won round one, and I thought Volkanovski was on his way to winning round two. But when you're fighting a guy like Topuria or any guy that has a striking ability like that, at the end of the day, all it takes is that one shot to win him the match. We've seen that with Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. That when you got a guy who could strike like that, all you need is one shot. And, that one shot landed really, really well. It landed flush right on Volkanovski's jaw, and it put him right to sleep. And he wasn't coming back from that. He got on top of him, landed a couple more shots before the referee came in with the stoppage. So we got a new featherweight champion, and it's crazy to see. We have a new era. We didn't know when we would see Volkanovski lose at featherweight. He seemed pretty much invincible at this weight class, and after beating everybody else, it seemed like it was going to be another few more years before we'd see Volkanovski lose at featherweight. We did see him lose twice last year, but that was at lightweight against Islam, and we know the second fight was on short notice, and it's not a good matchup for Volk. So no one really expects him to even win against Islam, so no one really uses those losses against him. But when it came to featherweight, nobody doubted Volkanovski, and he was the favorite coming into this. Not by much, but he still was the favorite. But as you could see, Volkanovski wasn't able to get the job done tonight. Now, this takes us to our next point of what's next for these guys. In my opinion, I think Volkanovski should take some time off. He's coming off of two back-to-back finishes, and that could do a lot of damage to you mentally and physically. So with Volkanovski, he likes to stay very active. He likes to fight a lot. He's definitely normally trying to get 2 to 3 fights in a year, but I wouldn't be mad at him if he took at least the next 6-7 months just to recuperate after this. This is definitely going to be an emotional loss, and it's going to mess with his confidence, especially since it's at featherweight. I mean, the other losses he could kind of understand because it's not at his weight class, but for him to finally lose at featherweight is definitely shocking, and I would like to see Volkanovski take some time off, maybe have a rematch with Topuria, maybe next year or later in the year. But I definitely want to recommend him to do an immediate rematch. I think Ilia should fight somebody else first, and then maybe have Volkanovski coming after that. Now, as far as Topuria, this could go multiple different ways. He doesn't want to fight any of the old challengers, he said. So he doesn't want to fight a Max Holloway or Yair Rodriguez or Brian Ortega. But we do have that matchup coming up next week between Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega. And a lot of people have said that could be a title eliminator shot. So the winner of that could potentially, be a contender. If Yair Rodriguez does win against Ortega, I'm not sure if Yair Rodriguez deserves an immediate rematch. He just got a title shot last year against Volkanovski, and he was the interim champion before that after beating Josh Emmett. So I would definitely say maybe if Yair Rodriguez wins, maybe not give it to him. But I wouldn't be mad if they gave it to the winner of that fight. Max Holloway is always an option. I know he's got the BMF fight coming up against Justin Gaethje, but he's always out there. But we know he's had a lot of title shots already. I know Poirier wants to have fresh meat, and he wants to fight someone fresh, a new up-and-comer, someone around his age. So I would say, Mozart would be a great fight for him. He's undefeated. I know his fights aren't that exciting. They've all been decisions, half of them being split decisions. But he is undefeated. He is 8 wins now straight. Basically had a couple split decisions, but pretty much other than that, he's been dominating since he's been in UFC. I thought Mozart looked very good against Arnold Allen. So I would like to see the Poirier fight Mozart, get a guy who's young, in his prime, undefeated just like he is. So I wouldn't be mad if they went that route for Poirier. I know there's a rumor going around that Poirier might be fighting Sean O'Malley if Sean O'Malley beats Chito Vera. I don't think that's a good fight. I think that's a little too soon. I don't think after one title defense should Sean O'Malley be trying to become double champ status. I think O'Malley should fight another bantamweight title match before he moves up to 145. So I want to go with the Sean O'Malley route. I would like to see them either have, if Volkanovski really wants to fight, give it to Volk, give him the rematch. He's earned it. He's been a company man. But I would like to see Poirier defend his title against another undefeated guy in Mozart. So now let's lead to our other fights. We got our co-main event, which was Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. Two guys also trying to fight to become a contender. Some people think that this could be a title shot match. Winner of this get the next title shot against Dricus. We still got Hamzat out there. We still got Israel Adesanya out there in that weight class. Sean Strickland definitely very much deserves a rematch. But the winner of this could definitely become, put his name in the hat as another option for, Dricus du Plessis as a middleweight title contender. I thought this fight was, pretty much a battle. Both guys, really, really put it on each other. You could see by the end of the fight, both guys were physically beaten. Paulo Costa's leg was completely destroyed. I'm surprised he was able to walk on it. Robert Whittaker was all bloody. Paulo Costa's jabs are really, really making a good effect on him. But pretty much besides that roundhouse we saw from Paulo Costa at the end of round 1, I pretty much thought Robert Whittaker was in control of the whole fight. End of round 1 after a roundhouse kick was the only time I thought Whittaker was really in danger. But pretty much Robert Whittaker controlled the whole fight. Like I said, both guys put damage on each other, but Robert Whittaker, I thought, was the guy who deserved the win. He's always, come back from losses very, very well. Every time he's lost in those title fights, he always comes back. And that's why we constantly see Robert Whittaker in these title shot conversations, because he doesn't really go on much losing streaks. He'll lose one fight and then he'll come back and look great the next. So Robert Whittaker is always going to be in that title contention, and he's definitely put his head in there as a guy who may be potentially getting maybe a rematch with Dricus, the guy who did beat him last time. So maybe he can get that rematch for the title shot. But Robert Whittaker was the better man tonight. And, now we'll see what Paulo Costa does. I know, he's an exciting fighter. He's going to have to probably fight someone much lower in the rankings. I know Hamza just said that he likes to fight the big fights. He's not really in the history or legacy. He just wants to make money and fight. So if that's the case, why not let Costa and Hamza fight? They were already supposed to fight before. It'd be a big money grab for both of the guys. I think both guys are marketable. And I think that would be a good fight for the UFC and the fans. So maybe that's where he'll go. But right now, Robert Whittaker has put himself back into that title contention. Now we go to our other fights. We got Ian Gary and Jeff Neal. Pretty close fight. I thought Ian Gary, won 2 out of the 3 rounds. So I thought he deserved the win. It was a split decision. So some people did think Neal won, but I thought Ian Machado Gary was the better man. I was a little disappointed in Ian Gary because I thought Ian Gary was going to dominate this fight. I thought he was going to be, hands clear, unanimous decision. If not, I thought he was going to finish him. I wouldn't have been surprised if he got the TKO in this fight. But, Ian Gary still got the win. He still stays undefeated. And he's another guy up and coming in his weight class. In the 170-pound weight class, Ian Gary's definitely, an up-and-comer. Obviously, he's not a guy you're going to say for a title contender yet. There's plenty of other guys who are going to deserve it more than him at this point in time. Bilal is definitely the most deserving for the next shot against Leon Edwards. You got Shavkov, Rachmanov. He's probably going to be the next title shot contender outside of Bilal. But, Ian Gary's moving up the rankings slowly. He called out Colby Covington. I think that would be a good matchup to see, especially after everything, Colby Covington said about his family. It would be nice to see them two guys, at a press conference going back and forth with each other. And who wouldn't want to see Colby Covington going up against Ian Gary? And at this point, with all the, the title shots that Colby Covington's gotten, it's time for him to fight someone lower in the rankings. Because at this point, how many more shots can you get to fight a guy, ranked the same or higher than you? He's going to have to fight, I think lower down in the rankings now after that, bad performance he had against Leon Edwards. So Colby Covington and Ian Gary would definitely sell, and I could definitely say that would be a good fight to see. Now that brings us to our next fight, which was Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. Now, I thought Merab would win the fight, but I thought it would be, split decision, very, very close. But Merab really put it on him. I never thought I would see a guy like Henry Cejudo with his caliber of wrestling get manhandled the way he did. Now, there's some rumors that he didn't have a good training camp. There's some rumors that he was coming to this fight hurt. But Merab really put it on him. When he was choking him and he was talking to Mark Zuckerberg, he could definitely tell, he was calm, collective. I thought Cejudo may got him in the first round, but after that, it was all Merab. And then for him to pick him up and carry him all the way to the other side of the octagon and slam him right in front of Mark Zuckerberg, it was kind of reminiscent of when Hamzat did that a few years ago. But to see a guy like Merab doing that to Cejudo, man, that was nothing more than spectacular. And I thought Merab, obviously, Poirier had the best performance of the night, but Merab's right there for what he did and the way he handled Cejudo. It was unbelievable. Now, this brings us, what's the future for these guys? I think Cejudo probably should hang it up. He basically the only way he's going to continue fighting at this age and at this stage of his career if it's for titles. And after losing, after already losing his last fight against Sterling for the title, he's out of the picture for the title shot. He'd have to win at least 2 more just to even put his name back into the hat for a title shot at that weight class. So I think Henry Cejudo should retire. He's had a great career, 2-division champion, going to be a Hall of Famer. Doesn't need to prove anything else. I think he should hang it up. But on the flip side, Merab, he's got to be the next title shot. I know, a lot of people think he's a boring fighter. A lot of people don't like Merab. And, he did the UFC wrong by not wanting to take title shots before. Rejected him because he didn't want to fight his best friend in Aljamain Sterling, which I can understand that. But because of that, that's kind of why his title shot has been kind of delayed. But after Cheeto and O'Malley fight, I think you got to give Merab the next title shot. I think it would be wrong if he doesn't get it. Dana White already said that he should get the next title shot, and his next fight will be for the Bantamweight Championship. So I think that he would probably be seeing, maybe O'Malley or Cheeto Vera in his next fight, and it's definitely deserved. He's put the work in. He's on a 10-fight win streak, and he's pretty much dominated all his fights, and he's beaten 3 former champions. He beat Jose Aldo, he beat Henry Cejudo, he beat Peter Yan. What more does Merab have to do? So I think Merab Dvalishvili is going to get the next title shot at bantamweight, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him fighting for the title shot probably at the end of this year against most likely O'Malley or Cheeto Vera, depending on who wins that matchup. Then obviously, to round out the main card, we had Anthony Hernandez, beating Romain Kopylov. Kopylov is coming into this fight on a winning streak. We thought he was finally going to put himself into the rankings. We thought he was an up-and-comer. But the story of the night of that fight was Anthony Hernandez, finish him in submission. Once he got that chokehold, Kopylov was able to escape it, and then Hernandez got it even tighter. And once he had that arm under his neck, we knew it was over. There was no way he was getting out of that. He had it tight. He knew it. We all knew it. And of course, Kopylov had to tap. If he didn't tap, he was gonna be sleep. So, but yeah, give it to Anthony Hernandez. We thought Kopylov was gonna be the guy we'd be talking about as another prospect. In the middleweight weight class with all those other great prospects we have at that weight class. But it looks like it's Anthony Hernandez who's now on his own fight win streak. He's got 5 straight victories now in the UFC. So he's going to move up in the rankings. I believe the middleweight weight class in the UFC is slowly becoming the most entertaining and the most stacked division. I know it's usually the 135, 145, 155s, but if you look at that rankings for the 185, you look at all those great fighters at that weight class, it's a slaughter down that weight class, and they're all killers at 185, and that's why we see a guy like Kopolov, get finished by Anthony Hernandez. But now we got another guy who's upcoming prospect at middleweight to go along with all the other great guys we got that weight class. So it's going to be exciting to see what the middleweight weight class is going to do. Anthony Hernandez will probably be fighting one of those other young upcoming guys at that weight class. So it'll be exciting to see who they put up against them next. But he definitely, ended the hype for Kopolov, and now we jump on the hype train for Anthony Hernandez. So that takes care of the rest of the main card. So if we look at the prelims, obviously we have Marcos Lima winning his matchup against Junior Tafa, who came in on short notice for his brother who was supposed to fight. Obviously, we knew he wasn't going to be able to, compete with a ranked guy coming in on 2 days of short notice. So that was pretty much a one-sided fight. We got to see another guy continue his undefeated streak in Rania Nakamura. He won that fight. He pretty much was on top of him the whole fight. It wasn't a really exciting fight. Nothing too crazy. Back and forth. Carlos Verena tried to get him in a couple of leg locks, but didn't go too well for him. So, Reina continues his winning streak, and he could be another guy that we're going to have to look out into the future. Another guy that we're definitely going to want to look at is Zhang Mingyong. He called out Alex Pereira a little too soon for that. But he's another prospect that we're going to have to look at. He finished, Brenson Ribeiro. So, Zhang Mingyong is definitely a name that we're going to have to keep in mind. He won't be ranked after this fight, but he's probably about a fight or two away from fighting a ranked guy and maybe potentially putting himself in, the rankings. He's young. He's only about 25, 26 years old. So look out for him in the future. We got Danny Barlow, undefeated as well. Won his fight pretty quick. KO in the third round. So he looked phenomenal. So I think Danny Barlow is another name to look out for. So this fight definitely showed us a couple guys that we're definitely going to have to keep our attention on going forward. Danny Barlow, Zhang Mingyong, and Reina. We're definitely going to have to keep our eye on those guys. But like I said, you could tell that this was a stacked card from all the way from the main card through the prelims. So Dana White and UFC did the fans really good in this card. And it just makes me more excited to see what the future is for UFC, and I can't wait for the next card.